Totally unsustainable, and I am not telling you anything you don't know. I'm not telling you anything you're not worried about, and I'm not telling you anything that you're not going to do something about. So we have all these great candidates here, and I've got to tell you, serving in public office is not as hard on the candidate as it is on their families. And it is one of those things that really takes total selflessness. You're going to come under some fire. You're going to have to come under some people who tell you you're doing a great job one day, and then call you the next day and say, you can't possibly be the person I just talked to yesterday. I mean, you're weaker than that. And so my point is this. Look, we know that the path we travel right now is going to be a difficult one. And it's not going to be something that's going to come easy, and it's not going to be something that we're going to be able to do in one day or 1 year. And what I'm going to suggest to you is, as much as what we're looking at today isn't quite what we'd like it to be, it's just one day in a very long battle. The real fight is 2012. And so when we talk about how are you going to get to 2012, and I mean this sincerely, this has nothing to do with Republicans and Democrats, by the way. It has to do with America. Now, I have a lot of friends in the Democratic Party right now who understand exactly where we are, and they know exactly what has to be done. The problem that we have is that we can't seem to get together on the same page every day to do the things we know we have to do. And one of the things that I'm really disappointed in, and for those of you who watch the Fox News channel or any of the news channels, you're only getting part of the story. And this idea that we are totally dysfunctional is a totally dysfunctional statement. This is exactly the way the model is supposed to work. And when you tell people there's actually 2 chambers in Congress, and just because it says Congress and I happen to be a congressman, that doesn't mean there's also somebody else who needs to be actively engaged. It just happens to be the Senate. So when the House debates things, and it can be very, very loud, and it is open, and it hasn't been for a long time, and people can get up and say what they have to say, and they can make the amendments that they want to make, and they get put out there, and they get voted on up and down, and the whole world can see it. That's healthy. But once it passes the House of Representatives, and it goes to the Senate, and nothing's done, that is not healthy. And unfortunately, the situation we have right now, because there's an election coming up, Mr. Reid, who is the majority leader in the Senate, and a Democrat, absolutely refuses to put anything on the table right now that's going to test the folks that are in those seats. So rather than taking the really hard vote, and really taking the vote that makes sense for everybody and the world's watching, they table it. So when people say to me, you guys have got to get some stuff done, I said, do you know we've already done that? I had somebody call me a week ago, and I talked to Congressman English on this, because this is where we get caught up in this. It was about the FAA bill. And I said, Bill, you know, this is driving me crazy. We passed this. He goes, you guys did. I said, well, it was July 20th, and I went back and looked, 3/23, July 20th, we passed the FAA bill. Mr. Reid and Mr. Obama said, you know what, it's a shame these guys went on vacation and didn't handle this FAA bill. And that's really dysfunctional. But what he didn't say was, you know, it actually got walked down the hall. Now, all you have to do is walk from the congressional side. You just walk across under the dome, go into the Senate. You give it to them. They sat on it. They did absolutely nothing. They've done nothing with the H.R. 1. Paul Ryan had a budget that we proposed. I mean, there wasn't even a budget passed the year before. We had a budget, was hotly debated, talked about, passed, bipartisan by the way, sent to the Senate, with all the cuts in there that Standard & Poor, and exceeded what Standard & Poor would have asked for. Nothing done on it. Nothing done on it. We did cut, cap, and balance, which made sense, had bipartisan support. Passed it, took it to the Senate. Senate tabled it. All these items that we're talking about are not dysfunctional. The only dysfunction takes place on the side of the House where the graybeards, or the thoughtful ones, are really using too much thought and not using enough patriotism to do what they have to do. We have got to get this done. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and again, I know some of you are really staunch and think that this stuff has got to be done right away, and it's got to be, and it does. It does, but understand the process is this design. The only thing I'm disappointed in is that the Senate, while they're supposed to debate it and amend it and talk about it and vote for it, have chosen to table it. That's not good. That's not good. Actually, Mr. Reid and Speaker Boehner had a deal put together on cut, cap, and balance.